Hi everyone. So I've blocked in all my tones. I have 5 tones and I've indicated where each tone goes. The next thing I'm going to do is start painting with colour. Now, for this still life, we're going to approach it by painting in one object at a time. And before we do that, we're going to paint the background around each object. And there's 2 reasons for this. The first one is that by painting around the object, you actually get to see very, very clearly the boundaries of the object that you're going to paint. So it gives you a nice, clear boundary. Another thing is that it gives you the opportunity to correct any mistakes that you have made. And I can definitely see a mistake, at least one mistake, and it's this vase here. It's quite lopsided. You know, it's tilting. This should be parallel, okay, and it's not. This side seems more rounded than this side. So I'm going to get my pencil out. I'm going to fix up my drawing, and then I'm going to paint around it so that it appears better, okay, so that I'm correcting my drawing by painting around the background. Okay, so I took the opportunity to fix my drawing. So you can see I've drawn sort of a cross line, and I even went as far as to measure each half to make sure that it was equal, and you know what, it wasn't. So you can see that I've had to redraw my line. You might just be able to see the pencil line. Now, to make it easy for me to see that pencil line, I will now paint around that in the background colour, and I'll be able to see the object more clearly. So you can see how painting the background around the object first can really help you fix your drawing up and see your actual drawing even better than before. Okay, so now that I've fixed up my drawing and I've indicated my correct drawing in pencil, I'm ready to paint around the background of this vase. I'm also going to paint around this bangle holder as well, because I'd really like to start painting the bangles as well. So I'm going to now mix just the background colours. So on your palette, you only need to put the colours that you will be requiring for what you're painting. Okay, so you don't need to put everything down. So I've actually put down burnt umber and warm blue, and because I have a fairly black background, I've decided just to put a little, I'm going to mix a bit of black in mine. So I'm going to actually break some rules. I said not to use black, but I'm actually going to use it to mix in with this burnt umber and blue mixture. Okay, so I've mixed my colour here, and by adding blue and burnt umber and a bit of black, I've actually got a really lovely rich black. It's not a dead, lifeless black. It has some colour in it, and it's very subtle. Now, I'm going to start painting my background, but before I do that, I want to show you a little trick that you could use to see if your tones match. Now, if you've got a colour printout handy, you can actually dab this colour or the colour you intend to use on the printout to see if the tones match, you know, and then you just squint and blur. Now, I don't have a colour printer. So what I'm going to do, and this might be something you could do as well, is I'm just going to dab the colour or the tone that I'm going to use on a scrap of paper, and then I'm just going to hold it up. And you can see that, yeah, the colour, not only does the colour match really well, but the tone, more importantly, the tone matches. Okay, so that is even more important than the actual colour. Okay, so yeah, I'm happy with that. And so now I'm ready to paint around actually, I'm going to paint around 2 objects. Okay, so you can already see how this lovely rich black background has really made my objects pop. I've made sure that I've painted around the mistake, so you may not be able to see it, but you can see that I've added more width to this side of the vase. And now I'm ready to apply the lighter tones that you can see here. And I've already mixed a colour on my palette. I've just put it there. I'm just going to hold it up and just compare it with what's on the screen. Now you can see that the tone is right. If I squint and blow, the tone is correct, but the colour's not. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, you know, I am going to add a little bit more burnt umber to that particular black to try and match it, but I'm more concerned with the tone, because that is what is going to make this work look three-dimensional. After all, no one knows the real colours of your objects. It's the tones that you really want to get right. Okay, so I got carried away and didn't want to waste my paint on my palette, so I continued painting in even more of the background, and I've added the shadow tones. So I've got my darkest core shadows and my shadow tones, which are still quite dark. Now I'm going to paint some of these dark mid-tones here, which you can see over here are a bit lighter. And I'm not painting them in perfectly. I just want to get most of the background in, actually, because it just makes my drawing and painting look more satisfying. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing. And now I've made some tones on my little piece of paper. I tried these out. These were too dark, but I dabbed it. I think this one's really good. So if you have a look, I'll show you what I mean. It just, I think, is just the right tone. It's not the same colour, but the tone is right. So I'm going to put this highlight in, and I'm doing it quite roughly still, because painting is done in layers. So you can return to your painting and put things in more neatly, but just bear in mind that if you over blend paint, it loses its vitality, especially when you look at it from far away. And that's what you should be doing. You should be going to your painting and just looking at it from a distance and see if it has the effect you want. Okay, so bear that in mind. And a well-known artist calls this painting ugly. Basically, you know, brush strokes can look quite ugly close up, but in fact, when you move further away, they magically join together to create an illusion of something, whether it be, you know, a shiny surface of a kettle, for instance. So think about that. Okay, so I've blocked in or painted in most of my background. I'm quite satisfied with that. It does look like there's a drape behind the objects. It looks fairly three-dimensional. It's a painting, so I can go back to that and revisit the background. But I would really like to start now focusing on the objects. So don't forget, guys, you can go back to this section of your painting and paint over it. Painting is, after all, meant to be painted in layers.